Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. We are here. It is the Tuesday afternoon spectacular, enforcing the fundamentals with Doug Harding. I am Matt. Doug, how you doing? We're having a little bit of a technical issue here, so just let us know how it's going while I work on this for a minute.
Okay, you work on it. I see a great big hockey arena in front of me, and I'm missing your happy, smiley face. So, I'm wondering. Oh, there's everybody.
Okay, well
You
that's
solved
good.
it.
So, I mean, you got things, and that's fantastic. I have nothing, so that's cool.
Mm.
That's fine. I don't need to see me. Who needs to see me anyways? It's fine. Anyways, how's your week been? What's been going on? How you doing? How's your week been?
Oh,
What you been up
week
to?
it's been pretty cool, pretty rainy up here. Lots of wind.
Yeah.
Well, this is pretty rainy. Yeah, we have lots of wind. That's what you sometimes get when you're living on a lake. We've had some
Well,
friends
that'll
come and
happen. Yep.
visit us who have they do a big podcast on home building on their island, and it was really great to have them in. We kind of watched that, and they were driving by, and they said, Jane said that they were welcome to stop in because they got late leaving. They
Mm-hmm.
actually came from Nanaimo, and they live way, way, way north. They bought an island in the middle of a lake, and they're building a fantastic home for themselves. So, it's really neat to watch them do their podcast thing, once a week. So it's first time we've ever, had them here, and they stayed overnight, and we did lots of talking. And they're turns out they're hockey fans. So they couldn't shut me up.
No, well, that'll happen for sure. Yep. So apparently this is just a me problem because as I've tinkered around here, I've discovered that everybody else can see me but me. So that's cool. That's fine. I don't need to see me. I know what I look like. So we're getting deep into these NHL playoffs. I believe we're half over now. I think everybody is just
Mm.
about done. Are they not? I have to. I've closed a window I didn't mean to
Well, they're
close
done
here.
2 rounds, and yeah, they're done 2 rounds now, and they've got 2 more rounds. A lot less teams. A little
Yeah.
sad to see
Well,
Winnipeg go out. Also sad to see Toronto go out. That would have been great to have a an East-West final in the NHL Stanley Cup, but maybe another
yeah,
year.
yeah. We've. I mean, we talked about that before. It would have been really cool to see another Canadian final, but I think people that depend on the ad revenue may not like that as much. Apparently, um,
The economics are not good, but
yeah,
the Don home heart is really good.
yes, absolutely. So we got Dallas and Edmonton and Florida and Carolina. So we got
Well, speaking of Carolina, everybody see
yes,
that?
you got your
That
hat
was
back
given
on.
to me from a player way back when the Carolina Hockey Club won the Stanley Cup. So I dug it out because it was at the bottom of my hats, and thought I'd show everybody what it is.
It's fantastic. No, always good to have that. It's nice to have friends in places to do stuff. Yeah, it looks like we're kicking off tonight. The Panthers and the Canes are going to have a tilt, and then we got that big north south commute as the Oilers and the Stars kick it off on Wednesday night.
Yeah.
Um, the I'm not going to say it's a small jaunt, but I mean the travel time between Florida and Carolina is a lot different than the travel time between Edmonton and Dallas.
Yeah, it'll be a lot less wear and tear on the players coming out of that series than it will on the players coming out of the Edmonton Dallas series. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And those people that uh, think that that doesn't have some factor to it, physically it does. Mentally, maybe it's a boost. Hey, we're we've been given the tougher road to get there. Maybe that will really motivate whoever comes out of the West. So I hope that's Edmonton. Sorry, folks. Sorry, Dallas folks, because I do have a lot of. Actually, Daryl Ray who it does broadcasts for the Dallas Stars. So
Mm-hmm.
you remember Daryl?
I do remember Daryl.
He's. It was really funny. I mean, you're talking about his stories. We were in Europe playing with the team, and Daryl. Daryl did the play-by-play broadcast from the bus on the speaker system in the bus of everything that was going on outside. That should have been a tip-off at age 17. Daryl Ray was already doing podcasts, or I mean, already doing broadcasts. So it was he was a funny guy. He could
Mm-hmm.
do imitations really well. I'd love to see him again. I'm not sure he was doing his summers in Kamloops, but I'm not sure he does that. That was many years ago. I'm not sure he still does that, but
Yes, I think that
yeah,
was the last time I saw him, and I would have been a wee tot. Um,
yeah, you were,
I mean, I guess not so wee. I was still in grade school.
you were, you were. He was running around a track. Actually,
Yeah.
your brother was there too because he was running around the track. He was at a Kamloops Blazers tryout camp when he was quite young,
Mm-hmm.
and Daryl was there. So yeah, that was the last time.
I mean, that's yeah. It has been quite a while. You know what? Through the miracle of modern technology, maybe I'll try reaching out to him again and see what we can sort out in our tiny little podcast. Get a big old guest from your past to come back in. He was always quite kind
We're
to.
going to put a professional on here. Oh, not that you're not
Oh,
professional. You do a
oh,
lot, but
no, no. You have to get
you're going
paid
to
to be
mix him with
professional.
me.
It's.
He may
I don't get
refuse on
paid
the
for this.
grounds that he doesn't want to do work with a main speak uh, uh, rookie.
Yeah. Well, I this costs me money. I don't make money off it, so that makes me strictly amateur status at this
Mhm.
point. Um so yeah. So the other thing I noticed and I want to get into this right off the bat before the other thing that pops into my head sort of takes over. The NHL are not the only hockey going on right now.
No, yeah, the
The
women are.
IIHF World Championship is
Yeah,
going on, kind of overlaps. Now, they correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't they do to sort of offset this more a little deeper into the summer to allow more flexibility for the NHL players? I seem to remember this was
yeah,
after the
they.
NHL season thing
Yeah,
at
no,
one point.
it's been pretty much the way it is. It's the growing problem is the NHL playoffs have gotten longer and longer. I remember the NHL playoffs. I can remember the day when they were done in April, and now it's going to be the end of June before they're done this year, or close to
Hmm.
the end of the June. So the IHF. They seem to sort of stay in the same spot. And,
Mm.
I think the rest of the world, although they know about Canada and they know about the NHL, there are a lot of countries who play hockey that tend to think that this is the big event for the year, not the NHL and not the Stanley Cup. So there's not much question about which is the better hockey. But in terms of country support, there's an awful lot of support from in those other, I don't know what there is, 24, because they have like two or three divisions in that. We
Hmm.
only ever watched the first one, but they have allocations in that where the bottom teams in each division get dropped down and the top teams in each division get brought up. That's why every once in a while you see it switching around, except for the very top countries who are the very top countries. The other
Okay, so what I
countries
am
like,
seeing here, just but not to cut you off entirely, but let's just
oh no, go
clarify
ahead.
something. What I am seeing here is we have in Group A are Austria, Canada, Finland, France, Latvia, Slovakia, Slovenia, and Sweden. And Group B is consisting of Czechia, Denmark, Germany, Hungary, the US, Switzerland, Norway, and Kazakhstan.
Hmm.
So that's what I am seeing on the IHL website there. So we got
Yeah.
16 teams in this ongoing world championship. I'm just
Is
trying to
that a
navigate. Hmm?
Yeah, is that a tier one? Is there another tier of other countries that play?
That seems to be it. That I mean,
Okay.
just judging by the countries involved.
Hmm.
I mean, I
So
don't want to insult any of our Kazakhstani or German or Hungarian or French listeners, but I feel like some of these teams may not be tip top division countries fielding hockey players.
yeah,
But
you take the top 8 hockey countries in the world, and and then you've got the next 8 that are all trying to rotate just for the opportunity to play those
mm-hmm,
teams. I think so, but. You've seen, like I've seen over a long time, teams or countries like Austria and Germany that have really starting to close a little bit of ground on elite hockey. They've got a ways to go to catch up to the Canada, USA, Sweden,
mm-hmm,
Finland. You know, we don't have Russia anymore, but Czechoslovakia, I mean, those have been historically, the teams
mm-hmm,
and not really to be unseeded. So they include more teams at the bottom, and I'm not exactly sure of what the system is, but they're the world is beginning to gain some interest. I have friends who've played in Germany, and the German professional league is mostly made up of transitional NHL players. Guys that have played in the NHL for a while. Plus,
mm-hmm,
they're German home players that play with those guys to improve their abilities to be able to play at higher levels. And I think that this is Austria is another country. Well, Sweden and Finland, they all have their own professional leagues. Again, none of them really compare to the NHL. I mean, the Russians' professional league was a very good league. You know, I'm guessing because I've never really seen any games, but the players that play in it, a lot of guys that could still play in the NHL go for
mm-hmm,
bigger dollars and head off to Russia to play. I'm not sure how much of that is now being done. I've kind of lost track with it, and actually since COVID, I used to know quite a few players that. Jake Virtanen went to Russia to play for a year.
mm-hmm.
Um, I believe Jake did come back, or he's playing over in Europe someplace. I should actually contact his mom and find out what's going on.
That would be an
I'm not sure what
interesting.
kind of a deal he got. Mhm.
That would be an interesting story to hear. Leaving the North American system to, and it's not like Russia's a third world country, but it's
Yeah,
definitely a different way of life over there.
I
So it'd
might be
be
able to get Brendan Yip to come on here. I
well.
know
Let's.
Brendan fairly well, but Brendan has been the captain of the China national team for quite a few years, and actually he tried to get me. I was interested in one point in going to Hong Kong to do some coaching after I finished here, and there was an opportunity, and he heard about it and threw my name into the cap, and I got the job. But there were too many perimeter things going on to be able to accept it at that time. But he is a mainstay for the Chinese hockey system. I don't know how much, when it was coming up to the Olympics, China put a lot of money and effort into, putting forth a team that it would be somewhat competitive. And they did have some competitive games. I guess they learned to play defense, and they played defense pretty good in comparison to, they had to play against the Canada's, USA's, Finland's,
Mhm,
and a lot of other teams, but that's who they got to play. And, some of their games were pretty decent, and, within 3 or 4 goals is pretty decent for, a team like what China had. But they
Hmm.
recruited as many Canadian and U.S. Chinese nationals to play too, and I'm not sure that they put a whole lot of money into their program anymore. But because it was an Olympic year in China, they did, and
Hmm.
I followed Matt quite a bit. Maybe we can find out when and if he's home and get him to come and
Yeah,
talk about
I mean,
hockey in China. I'd love to do that.
you let your fingers do the walking there and see if we can find somebody like to share these stories, because I think
Hmm.
that's something that I think a lot of kids in North America don't really consider until they don't have really much of a choice.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. It's much like going to Europe to play basketball.
Mm.
You get to a certain level, there's only so many jobs available, and whether it's legitimately you aren't ready for that league, or you've had an injury and something's passed you by, whatever, through your fault or not, these opportunities pop up probably for a lot more players than we expect, and then they have to go on this little adventure to keep playing, whether they're
Yeah.
like we mention them every show, like Danny Hodgson went and had a very long career over in Europe. um, for a North American player to go play over in Russia for a year, that has got to be an interesting story. Going playing in
Yeah.
China for a year, or some
Yeah.
of these other places where the kid playing at the rink in Burnaby may not expect to be playing professional hockey in Kazakhstan or
Yeah.
Austria. Um,
Yeah.
so
I
those
have a couple.
stories are quite valid because they still get to go out there and they still get to do it. It's
I have a
the Go ahead.
I have a couple of players that played college hockey,
Hmm.
and then would have loved to have played a little longer. Maybe weren't good enough to, make a top North American team, or they were a good college player, but not going to be a particularly good pro player. That
Hmm.
went to Europe and played in uh, second and third division leagues. Uh, they got a year or two of playing hockey and traveling and seeing Europe and experience all kinds of different types of lifestyle. I have a couple of those. Yeah, Andrew Wheeler is
Hmm.
one of the kids that I had a tremendous amount of respect for his ability to keep going and play his heart out. And he played Canadian university hockey, and then he went over to Sweden, and it's not as easy as you think. Some of those hockey playing situation. I should actually have him come on and
Hmm.
explain some of them what they're. But the bonus to that is he became a kinesiologist, and he trains just a ton of NHL and pro players in the Kelowna and Vancouver area. He's used his kinesiology to continue his hockey career type of stuff, and
Hmm.
he's just a great guy. And I wouldn't mind hearing what
Yeah,
he has to
absolutely.
say about
We
that
gotta
too.
get a list together here, and
Yeah,
start using that iPhone of yours or the Samsung or whatever you got, and get through there, because most of these people wouldn't know me except to go, oh, that's what Doug would have looked like in his mid 40s. Um,
yeah,
let's see.
pretty
Let
much. So Andrew would know you
Jeff
right
has been
away.
joining us. Jeff, how you doing, buddy? Good to
Hi,
hear from you.
Jeff.
He's Jeff is looking forward to game one tonight. That's Carolina and Florida. And you hear people making very good livings playing all kind of different sports overseas. It has become quite the option for people to continue their careers at the professional level. Sometimes they end up liking it more and making better money. I mean,
Yeah,
there is that. I think there's blinders on to a lot of young athletes in North America. They look at the NHL, they look at the NFL, they look at Major League Baseball, they look at the NBA, and
mhm,
that's where it stops. As
yeah,
I was saying earlier, they don't consider, the fact that
mhm,
you can travel the world and do this and still make a pretty decent living. I I'm not going to comment on the salaries of any of these players because I don't know what they're like, and then we have to go through the whole currency exchange things to figure out how on par it is, but there's this glitz and this glamour factor to the big four,
Yes.
really.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and
But the Jeff's
proper
right.
football, soccer,
Yeah.
is also has this thing where we are in North America, we're coming along, we're catching up to the rest of the world. We're not quite there yet, but we have our moments. But I would imagine that, some of these players over in, Europe and the UK are don't really consider it's like, oh, well, I could go and, play football you know, in LA or Miami or Vancouver
Hmm.
and not be um, on like a Liverpool or a Wrexham or any of the other major teams over there. I mean, they consider maybe even South America, and there are options. I don't know
Yeah.
what the pay scale would
And
be
they're good
different, but
options for a lot of people. I know
mhm,
Larry Sachuk's brother played hockey in Austria. Larry was a could have been a whoops, Larry fans or no fans, could have been an NHL Hall of Famer.
mhm,
He just didn't quite live the right kind of life for a team to
okay,
take
yep,
risks on him. I mean, his NHL scoring records are along those in the first 3 to 5 years, are along those with Bobby Orr.
mhm,
And, he just lived himself right out of a career. But his brother-in-law went to Austria to play, played for 17 years. He could barely make enough money to support himself playing in North America, and yet became a Hall of Famer in Austria. And
mhm.
to this day, the Austrian team sends him, oh, what did somebody, a pallet of beer every year from Austria. That's
I've
Austria's
missed my
best
calling
nation
somehow.
beer.
I
But, there are a lot of bottom, I wouldn't say bottom end, let's say bottom third NHL hockey players who
mhm,
can make more money playing in Europe
mhm,
on a team than they can playing in the NHL. So it's
mhm.
not like I make the NHL, I'm going to make $500,000 a year more than anybody else playing hockey in the world. Uh, I know of one case where the player was making, this is quite a few years ago too, though, but he was making a little over $205,000, which
Mhm.
wasn't bad. But, he was starting to get bounced around. He got offered an opportunity after 4 or 5 years to go to Europe to play, and he bounced his overall paycheck up by about $200,000. They almost doubled his paycheck. So yeah, the
Yeah,
bottom
that's not a
line
bad
guy.
raise. I mean,
Yeah,
that's a little more than that cost of living bump most of us get. That's
yeah,
still below
yeah,
cost of
yeah,
living and
yeah,
inflation. So uh,
yeah.
these options are there, and it's just when you grow up, you want to be Michael
An
Jordan,
NHL player.
Sidney
Yeah.
Crosby, Wayne Gretzky, Joe Montana.
You've
Uh,
done it in your driveway or your basketball court for 15 years, so you're not
mhm.
giving up on it very quickly.
Yeah, and I don't. Yeah, like I said, I don't think a lot of people consider it. They just like, oh, okay, well, I could. Let me. I mean, you go through uh, some stuff. Guys will be doing great as basketball players. I mean, the NCAA. There's only
Mhm,
so many pro spots coming out of the NCAA to whatever sport you're in, but these are top level college athletes still.
mhm.
Sure, he didn't get drafted by the Knicks or the Cowboys. Probably not. I don't keep up, so I know Dallas is a bad example, but you don't get drafted by these leagues, and then some guy with a thicker accent comes along and says, "Well, have you considered Spain? Have you considered Italy?"
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
you're still getting paid to make a living playing a game. And when you're looking at some of these European leagues that are crossing borders, you get to see a lot of the world, or at least a lot of
Yeah.
Europe when you're over there.
Well, the big
And
thing about that, Matt, is the lifestyle that they get
mhm,
to experience because their schedules are nowhere near as heavy a schedule as, well, if we're talking hockey. I
mhm,
mean, they play 82 games in the year and they're cramming that all into so many months. The some of the European leagues or professional leagues, they'll only play like 35 games in the year. You know, every third weekend they're off where they can use the money they got to travel Europe. I mean,
And
like I say,
it's
I have to bring somebody on that can tell you about that.
yeah, I
Eh,
would absolutely love to hear that. I mean, I Danny Hodgson spent last summer going around doing his having his number retired and doing
mhm.
some Hall of Fame stuff. So I'll have to reach out, see if we can get Danny. If you happen to be listening, Danny, just drop me a line, buddy. But you're getting paid to play a game that you were playing in your driveway for free, dreaming of it. And let's take a look at this one kid you were saying. The name's already escaped me because it's been a long week. $205,000 to play in the NHL, to play 82 games.
Mhm.
And you might get to see New York and Miami and LA and Toronto and the bustling hotspots of Winnipeg and Seattle as well and all over there. But that's 82 games. You're cramming it in there. $200,000 a year, 205.
Mhm.
You get a raise that doubles
Up to
essentially what you're getting
350 to
paid.
four hundred thousand
You are
dollars equivalent.
you are playing a half or less based on these
Mhm.
numbers. There's no facts here. I haven't done any research on this in the last 14 seconds since we brought this topic up. So you have to forgive me the exact numbers, but you're making twice as much and you're playing half as many or less.
And you're
You're
getting
working more, you're working less and getting paid more. Is that not just the dream of everybody out there, punching the clock and, you know,
well,
it's
that should be. I mean, somebody wants to play in the NHL, so that's still the only dream. Even more money, they'd still give that up to come back
mhm.
and be
Oh,
given a better opportunity. But it has to be for them to come back. It has to be a better opportunity. That's what I'm
yeah.
finding out a little bit from the agents. Uh, well, let's go back to somebody we talked about before, was Brendan Yip.
Mhm.
Brendan played, I don't know, 3 or 4 years in Colorado.
Mhm.
And yeah, I'm not sure, but I think Brendan even won a Stanley Cup. He was traded. He went to another team. He came back to Colorado. He was put in the American Hockey League. He got an offer from Germany. He went over to Germany for a couple of years, and he got a chance to come back again, but again at the not a level that he wanted to play at. I mean, here's a guy who's a big leader, and you don't get to be the opportunity of a big leader in a big NHL team. Not all of my facts are going to be 100% on Brendan, but he was
Okay,
pretty
well,
well
hold on.
done.
Let me let
Hmm.
let me I have managed to Google him real quick. That sounds
Good.
weird. He spent part of the 29 or the 2009-10 season bouncing between the Lake Erie Monsters and the Avalanche.
Yep.
Then he stayed with the Avalanche through 2012. He spent part of 2012 and 2013 in Nashville, then over to the Phoenix Coyotes, and then down to he was playing in Portland and Norfolk and Utah, and then there it is over to Germany, and then over to China. He was playing with the Kunlun Red Star for
Yes.
looks like 3 seasons, and then it looks like he went to Finland, Norway. That's that
Norway.
flag.
Okay. Yep.
Um, so I mean, he was all over the place, and
Yeah.
he was back playing in China up until this exact year.
Yep.
So I mean, he's had a hell of a career. So he managed to play. He was in looks like he did his university in Boston. Did 4 years
Yes.
on the University of Boston,
And then
and then
he
from
was
2009
Coquitlam.
to this year that he's been playing professional hockey all over the world.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty cool.
So that's that. United States, Canada, Germany, Norway, China.
Yeah.
China's not a country most people would think about having a hockey team. let alone a league. And that's great for them. Lord knows they have the population base. It's a huge country, lots of people. I would love to hear all about that experience. That would be fascinating to me.
I'll talk to his mom.
There you go. We don't deal with agents. We go to the parents around
Yeah,
here.
we go to mom's
He
agents.
can,
They're too hard to deal with.
so I mean, yeah, he did. Yeah, he's that's fascinating. And that's the kind of story right there that interests me the most. And I think should interest all of our young listeners out there that are,
Yeah,
right now they're going, my season has probably just ended or is about to one way or the other. And I don't mean the NHL guys. I mean, as we're wrapping up, the minor leagues, and the what's the word I'm looking for, minor hockey, and the sort of the stepping stone semi-professional leagues leading up into that NHL. Yep, Jeff agrees. They treat
yeah,
athletes well over there, is what he hears. And yeah, I think that's fascinating. I think that is a lot of
yeah,
times we don't hear these kind of stories from these athletes that, especially when you're talking about guys that, are of note in the NCAA and just don't really make it. There's something
yeah. He
about
won
that
a
jump.
national championship. He won a national championship at Boston University. So I mean, these are pretty high profile kind of guys in terms of the things that they've accomplished in their lives. They may have, he may not
Mm-hmm,
have won a Stanley Cup, but he's had life opportunities that are rare to get. And I know when the Chinese were hosting the Olympics, they uh,
mm-hmm.
they really made Brendan a big deal, and
Yeah.
they paid him pretty well. I don't know the exact figures, but I do know that it was better than he ever got in the NHL by a long shot. And
Mm-hmm,
he made. I don't know whether the Chinese government was upset that they didn't win a game, but I mean they were incredibly competitive compared to what they would have been had they not had a Brendan Yip and had they not had the
mm-hmm.
people behind Canadian people behind Chinese kids striving to do the best that they could. So I'm a big I'm a big fan of that. Whether I'm a big fan of the country or not
Yep.
doesn't really make any difference. You know, they had a project, and from what I understood, they did the best that they were willing to do. They put into it. So
Mm-hmm,
and I would imagine that the players that they did recruit from the Chinese players that they did recruit from North America also there's some pretty good Asian hockey players playing in
mm-hmm.
our country, and they put forth a pretty good show. I mean, defense was their thing to keep them competitive. So I think I saw when they played Canada. I don't know. Can you get that up? What the final score was? But they were within a couple of goals. Quite a ways through that in the Olympics. That was in Beijing, and that alone. I mean, wow, is just double wow. I could see Matt's going to work. So
Yeah, I'm I'm asking Google, and Google is very confused. You mean soccer? No. No, I do not.
that, that would make more sense, than hockey. But you know what happened? And
Yeah,
I
according to this, it was 5-0 for Canada.
and you take a look at that. I mean,
Yeah.
they had their captain. I think he was the only player in the team with NHL experience, and the
Mhm.
NHL just kind of bounced him around and threw him away. So
Yeah.
for him to come back and make it a 5-0 game,
Mhm.
that's a fantastic feat. I don't know why Chinese government is very, very watching their athletics, very, very
Mhm.
because
They take it
they want to
seriously.
win. They want to
Yeah.
win. Like, we're going to throw money in it to do the very best that they can, but ultimately they want to win. They want to be better. And you know, 5-0 against Canada. Holy
That
Christmas
that
time. They're
is
they're teams that get beat 10 and 12 by 10 and 12 goals playing in the top 10 countries in the world by Canada.
And this is
So
Olympic hockey, so it's not like the Canadian team was fielding anybody that wasn't currently active in the NHL.
that's right.
So this is top. There's to only lose 5-0 is a hell of a feat.
Yeah,
It's China is not known for coming out there on the world stage in skates. They do a
yep.
lot of other things really well. I could be corrected on this. Fairly young to the hockey
They really
in
were.
terms of it. Definitely
I
not.
can tell you right now, this is you'll like this.
Mhm.
Um, oh gosh, who do I want to say? Coached in Vancouver. He was actually recruiting the Chinese program. Mike Keenan.
Oh,
I
okay,
know
there
Mike.
you go.
I knew Mike a little bit from Philadelphia, and they held one of their cross country camps
Hmm.
in Vancouver at Burnaby Eight Rinks. And
Yep.
I had a couple of players that they were interested in. They took a development. This is about 3 years the before the Olympics. They
Hmm.
took one of the young players that I had suggested to them to this camp and actually took him to Riga to train him for 2 or 3 years to see if he could make him good enough to play on the Olympic team. And he he I'm not going to mention the name. Sorry, Ryan, I won't mention your name. Anyway,
I'm
he
not going to
did two
mention
years
Ryan's
there.
name.
He did 2 years. Well, I won't mention your last name, uh, just in case he's listening, because I know his mom does listen. um, he did 2 years of training with him and was invited to that Olympic year and decided to come
Hmm.
home, continue his education at Simon Fraser University. So, and he's I am assuming he's graduated now because he was a very brilliant student to give up 2 years to go
Hmm.
away and play for a Chinese team in Riga. I guess it's Finland, isn't it? Riga's in.
Yeah,
I'm not sure, but anyway,
I
yeah,
believe
and
so.
he said he gave it a shot. He didn't think he was going to be any kind of contribution, so he returned to do school, which surprised us all because I knew that that they were going to include him in giving him a shot. So
And it's
some people
Latvia,
do do
not
that.
not Finland. It's
Latvia,
Latvia.
that's right, that's right. I certainly stand corrected, but
We neither one of us are known for our doctorates in geography, so we're just going to
yeah,
move past that.
yeah, it's a good thing.
Apologize to all our Latvian listeners out there.
We
We're
all
doing
love
our
Riga.
best.
It's a real
It's
hockey center, both for the Chinese and for the Russians.
hmm.
Riga's like a homestay for them. So,
Well, I mean, I believe it's fairly central to.
mhm.
You know what? I'm not known for my geography, and I'm not looking it up right now. But
Oh God, should I throw in another fact for you?
sure.
A player that I had as a junior that I used to work with and train and provide ice time to during the summer over at the Oak Bay Recreation Center that played for
Hmm.
the Victoria Cougars was Kurt Fraser. And
Yep.
he coached in the NHL and he coached
Yeah,
around
he's
Canada.
the uncle of
He
a buddy of
was
mine.
he was to be their head coach for the Chinese team, and he did work for them for about a year and a half. I'm not sure that he did go to the Olympics. I believe he became ill,
Hmm.
and but you know all the things that keep hooking back to little memories. It's I hook a hockey bubble and it seems to go forever. But Kurt Fraser was one of my favorite players that I saw, developing. And when he was drafted by the Canucks, I went to their camp because it was in Duncan, and he introduced me to Stan Schmiel, who had been the captain of New Westminster Bruins, and Kurt had
Hmm.
been the captain of Victoria Cougars, and Victoria lost to New Westminster. New Westminster went on to win the Memorial Cup. So all these little links are just awesome. But I can remember both Brendan and Ryan mentioning that they really liked Kurt Fraser. He
Hmm.
was just enough of heart and just enough of motivation to make them want to play. So, Well,
And
I know
that's
Kurt
that
won't.
balance has
Kurt
got to
won't
be
be looking
key.
at this, but Kurt, if you ever do, or if you ever want to come, I know he's been quite ill uh, for the last few years. He's done over his career so much fundraising for
Hmm.
diabetes. He was a insulin-fed junior hockey player. He had diabetes way back when he was a junior hockey player, and I just a guy full of ton of courage, and I must say the biggest hands I have ever seen in my entire life. He had mitts on him. It was really awesome.
Okay. All right. That went somewhere. I was really
I'm
worried there
sorry,
for a
Matt.
second there. I'm
You
like,
brought me
oh.
on here.
I mean, last week we got down the restroom facilities pathway somehow, and I was a little scared we were getting into the shower room for a minute there, but good for him.
No, no, no,
And
no.
but
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's
Is Kurt still coaching hockey, Matt?
I
I hate
don't
to ask
know.
these facts things. I think
No,
he's retired now.
I
Good
believe
looking,
he
looking.
is.
One of the
Um,
nicest guys you ever
I,
met.
yeah, I mean, I know his nephew. His nephew and I were friends
Hmm.
for many many years. We've just sort of
Hmm.
lost touch there. Let's see here. And I might have misspelled that. Nope, my computer's just being super, super slow. That's cool.
Mm,
You
yeah.
know, what can you do? It's just the way the day is going for me. Um, so I'm just going to let that window
That's
do its
okay.
thing. Yeah, so it looks like for the day, we have wrapped up our IHL uh, games, which makes sense because it's probably somewhere
Mm.
around midnight, 2 o'clock in the morning at the local time. Uh, we have had Austria defeat Latvia 6-1. Kazakhstan lost to uh, Switzerland. Sorry, that took me a minute there. 4-1. Finland beat Slovakia 2-1. Denmark 2-1 over Germany. The Canadians beat the Swedes 5-3. Good
Oh
for
my.
us.
Yeah. Are
That's
they
not an easy
undefeated?
game.
No.
If you give me
No.
1 second, and the USA went 5-2 over the Czech Republic, and I can tell you just a second. I believe Canada's undefeated. I did look at this earlier. Um, yeah, no, many many things are open. The computer does not like it. Well, I'll just give that a minute. Might be time to clean up the old hard drive here. Let's see here. The Canadians is so far in this tournament. 4-1 over Slovakia, 7-1 over Latvia, 5-0 over France. So I mean the Chinese and the French are doing about the same, and that's pretty good for both these
Yep.
countries not
That's pretty
normally
good.
seen in an international hockey tournament, whether it's the Olympics or the IHL championships. And then 5-1 over Austria, 7-0 over Slovakia. The Finns beat
Wow.
us 2-1.
Oh.
And then yesterday we beat Sweden. And next is the 22nd of May. There's something about that day that rings a bell. I can't remember what it is. Couldn't be important.
Old
We
People's
have
Day.
Canada versus
Unofficial Old
Denmark.
People's Day. Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, we've only lost one out of seven so far. 6-1 is respectable, you know,
Yep.
and it against the Finns, who have been known to field really really good teams over the
Mhm.
however long. I mean, Finland is not one of those countries that, while they aren't big, their percentage of really good hockey players per capita is way up there. Um,
I spent a little bit of time in international hockey, and Finland started to develop and follow Canadian style hockey
mhm,
way back in the 70s, or maybe even the 60s. And it's proven to be a very strong thing for
mhm.
the Finns. They take a lot of pride in it. They were playing more Canadian style hockey than anybody else for a lot of years. So
Hmm.
That's tenaciousness, and they learn very quick. If somebody comes up with something that works, they put all their Finnish kids to work. I know I worked for an NHL player agent a number of years ago. That's when I was traveling all over. I don't know whether you remember that, Matt, or not, but
Yep, I do.
that agent was specifically focused at Finnish players, and he did okay.
Yeah.
He
I mean,
did okay, but
wasn't that the
that's
era where you were
he
you
spent
were
a
a
lot of
little bit
time in
late
school.
getting to a game in Seattle and you went to the wrong arena and basically walked out onto the court of the Supersonics game?
Yes, yeah, yes, I did. Walked right in on a supersonic thing. Came right through the back door like I was somebody who knew. And there was nobody there to ask me for my pass. I guess I was just walking with the
Well, and you were
enough authority. Uh,
I'm sure that you had been in that arena enough scouting the other teams because this was
they had they
because
had the two
Seattle had,
arenas, and
it was before many years before the Kraken. They obviously because the Supersonics were
oh yeah,
still in town, but
oh yeah, the supersonic
they had a
was
team
still
in
there. Yeah.
there, and I'm sure if you had walked in, a security guard would have gone, "Oh no, it's just Doug. He's back again." And then
Oh, maybe that's
as you
this
step
could be
onto
right.
the court, he would have gone, "Wait, it's basketball tonight." Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, for 10 minutes, I got to watch the most fantastic basketball game before I realized. No, there's not a hockey game on here after either because they've got a basketball floor down. Took me
yeah,
10
that's
minutes to figure that out, though, Matt.
I well, we'll start discussing, equipment changes at some point this summer and how long it was before helmets became mandatory because I think we're seeing some issues here. But that's all fine and good. But yeah, I think
Oh,
to
thank
get back to the
God.
point of this,
Yep.
um, for I mean anything at all, period. But for any country that is looking to come in, let's take hockey. You you want to make an impact. You have an idea what the game is, you have your facilities, but you don't necessarily have the infrastructure to elevate that other than fielding a team and hoping it works
Yep.
out, kind of like the Jamaican bobsled team, but hopefully not as many people are on their heads at the end of it. um,
Mhm.
Find a system that works and copy it. Find a coach that
And
is
stay
willing
with
to
it.
work for you like Mike Keenan and have them help you recruit. There is no
Yeah, and
shame
then
in going, this system works.
mhm.
We're going to do what they're doing because that
Yep.
is a
Or
top
find
tier level
somebody who
team.
knows that system. Yeah,
I mean, for
yeah,
years, the world,
yeah.
let's
I
take
was
a
a
look at
little
the World
surprised to
Juniors.
find Mike with the Chinese, but everything
I
is
mean,
everything. Was a little surprised when I walked into the arena to watch what was going on the ice, and he was upstairs. If anybody knows, 8 rinks. They have eight
mhm,
rinks, but they've got an upstairs area for viewing area and a pretty big restaurant canteen kind of thing. And he was standing there drinking coffee, and I looked and I went because I didn't know he was there
mhm.
until somebody I did know. Oh, he's going to be our head coach, and he's going to do this and that. And I said, oh my God, it is Mike. And so I kind of looked over, and he kind of looked over, and he must have a very good memory because I don't think I've met him more than 3 or 4 times. And that was a long time ago. That was when
Mhm,
he was coaching in Philadelphia. So
mhm.
look back to whatever year that was. And and so I started to walk over, and he says, I know you. I says, yeah, I know you too. You're a little easier to remember than me. And he said, where do I know you from Philadelphia? I said, yeah. He said, oh, we were talking to you about some scouting and doing, some junior players and what I thought. I said, I'm amazed you remember that. He says, your name is Doug. You're Doug. I said, yeah. He says, I don't remember your last name. I said, it doesn't matter. I can't believe you remembered Doug.
Yeah, right?
So, yep. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I mean
When
that's
he came
good,
to
but
Vancouver, I didn't contact him though.
I mean for a for a notable coach, and he is, and I know
Mm,
he's had his
yeah,
detractors over the years and whatever else to make that
they
decision.
detract.
there is
Mhm.
something appealing about being on the ground level and helping build that kind of a program, being picked out by somebody. Now, he might have been the first phone call, he might have been the 150,000th phone call, but
Yeah.
whatever his reasoning was, he decided to get in there and help build this program up from the start. And it all,
Well,
let's be honest here, they could have just put the comma in the right place on the check too. There's no
yeah,
shame in
they
that
could.
either. As long as the
Yep.
check doesn't bounce, there's no shame in that.
Yep.
It's he is doing what he loves to do and coach. He is building a program. Um, he's probably got a tremendous amount of authority and leeway up to a certain degree. Why
Yeah.
not? Why not?
Yeah, I
And
don't,
that,
he didn't last very long with them, but you know what? They they certainly knew what to go and get winners. I mean, Mike Keenan, like his style or not like his style, and he got players to be the best they could be. Could have been on the threat of death, but he got them there,
mhm.
and
Well,
did a
I mean,
lot of winning
that's
in his pro career. So
his.
kudos to him.
You can't argue with that. I believe Mike has a ring or two, does he not?
He might have
If
got
not,
one
he
in
was in
Vancouver.
the finals a couple of times.
Oh yeah, no question about
Yeah.
that. No question about
Um,
that. I
it's
mean,
it's just one of those things. Like,
yeah. Some
it's
people
no
just have
different.
personalities where they've only got a certain amount of time. It seemed
Hmm.
like Mike pressed that button a little bit. So with a
Yeah,
few people, but
and we don't need to
I
get into
was
the.
like I said, I was shocked to see him in Burnaby, Vancouver, BC,
Hmm.
and helping select players and organize the Chinese national program for however long he did it. I know he wasn't there too long, but you know what? It shows what his
It,
reputation was because the Chinese, they'll spend money, but they don't waste money.
no, I mean, and it's much like and we were talking earlier, where these opportunities come up that you don't expect, but how do you say no? Do you
No,
go and play
I,
in Germany? Do you go and play basketball in Italy? Do
or do you
you
go coach?
leave London to play, soccer in Miami? Do you leave the NHL and end up helping build the Chinese hockey program? Why not? You still get to do what you love. You still get to play a game for a living and get paid for it. You're in there somewhere, and just because it is not in one of these leagues that has that big spotlight on it, it doesn't mean that you're not going to make a living, you're not going to have fun, you're not going to turn around and regret going, well, I did this for so many years, and then yeah, I didn't, I didn't make the cut, or I got injured, or insert whatever story you want. And so, now I'm driving a Purelator van, and I'm still doing 12-hour days and I'm miserable, or I am, working on the dock, or, I went to work for or whatever. And it's just, you had it and you could still be doing it,
Yep,
or
yep.
you could have
Hockey's
the old nine to
amazing.
five. And there's nothing wrong with that. I got a 9 to 5. I'm not
Yeah,
shitting on it. I never had, the athletic ability or desire, more importantly, to go and chase those kind of dreams down. There's nothing wrong with those of us that are, blue collar workers, white collar workers, whatever. But
it was
if you
awesome.
could,
Hmm.
why wouldn't you learn
Yep,
something new? I'm sure, Mr. Keenan had the opportunity to maybe see some parts of the world being involved in that he never would have seen, have some experiences he never would have had, meet some people. And why not? It's all right there. Just because, you don't have a shot of the jersey you wore as a kid doesn't mean the jersey you did wear isn't going to be hanging in the rafters somewhere one day.
yep.
and that's still pretty cool. It's not a lot of people get that opportunity. So, all
Oh,
right.
you're
Well,
right.
that's
Oh, I
I had kind of wanted to discuss sort of as we get to the end of the season, um, how the coaches and the GMs and everybody must be feeling now that we're down to just 4 teams. But we're gonna save that because we only got a couple of minutes left of our hour, and I have a bunch of other stuff I have to do this evening. So, um, yeah,
okay.
that was great. We went off into the weeds. It was fantastic. We had some leads, some interesting stories going on. Just people out there, if you enjoy what you're doing, don't shit on the idea of doing it somewhere else.
Yeah. Don't be afraid to do it someplace else.
Yeah.
The friends that visited us have a very nice setup for their lives and have packed up all of their stuff and are moving to the middle of an island and building a whole brand new amazing life
Hmm.
for themselves. And you know, it's kind of funny how that little visit tied in with some of the things we talked about today.
Yeah,
So yeah.
absolutely. So
So
anything
are
else
we
on your
all
mind
done?
real quick?
We
And
can
yeah,
be.
we're pretty much done. We're almost at an hour.
No
Jeff
other
says it right.
than
An opportunity is an opportunity. Absolutely right. And if nothing else, you'll have some cool stories.
absolutely right. So yep. Be great
Final thoughts?
because you can. That's it.